Okay, so it's the 11th of September. I thought I'd do a real quick video on feeding bees. For the most part, here in eastern Connecticut, and even my bees out in Dutchess County, New York, the nectar flow is over. Bees are not getting ahead with the nectar that's coming in. There's a little here or there, but it's not filling honey supers, and it's certainly not going to be enough to prepare them for winter. So I'm preparing my bees for winter. So why am I feeding right now? None of these hives in this yard are starving because I fed them through August when there was no nectar flow. But now I'm trying to really encourage them to raise brood. They've all had pollen substitute, and I'm prepared today if they need a little more, I'll give some more pollen substitute. So I'm feeding 50-50 ratio syrup right now, but probably by next weekend I'll switch over to 2-to-1, which will be with the intention of them building stores. These bees have probably got half of what they need for the winter, so I want to fill them up. Of course, you got to use your smoker when you're feeding bees, okay? So get yourself ready when you start. If you're going to use a pollen substitute, have your patties ready. I've got my syrup in a can down here at my feet. My smoker is lit. Very important you use your smoker. There's really no need to get too involved in it. I use interior division board feeders. I never ever suggest you feed out. You know, open feeding in a residential state like Connecticut is just crazy. There's just too many chances for pissed off bees to be bothering the neighbors. You'll get robbing going in the yard. You can get other bees from the neighbors, wild bees, yellow jackets. You'll have just a feeding frenzy. So I never suggest open feeding. So always do it in something that is enclosed within the hive, and use a feeder that's a big feeder. Don't try to give them a pint jar of syrup once a week. That's going to get you nowhere. Okay. So as far as feeding it goes, get your smoker going. This is a very easy process. Okay. I just smoke the entrance of my hive, knock back the guards, and then remove the cover. So I smoke down the bees that are coming up through the hole in the inner cover. Remove the inner cover. So what I'm seeing is these bees are almost completely out of the patty that they've got, so I'm going to give them another one. I've got my feeder here on the left-hand side. I just fill it with a watering can. I got a little extra snout that I put on it so it's easier to direct the flow of the syrup. These things are advertised to take 2 gallons. They take more like 1.5 gallons to 1.75 gallons, depending upon the tip on the hive. That thing is full. Give them the pollen patty. Chunk down the bees. Put the cover back on. Like they say, rinse and repeat, right? No need to make this thing any more difficult than it really is, okay? I think this is one of the reasons why people don't feed their bees enough, is they get very apprehensive about going into their hive. This hive here, they're cleaning up the last of their pollen patty. Give them another pollen patty. Fill up the syrup. Inner cover is stuck to the outer cover. That on. You get the point, okay? The sooner you get comfortable with handling your bees, especially on a bright sunny day like today, the sooner you're going to be able to get in here, do your thing, and get out. I understand that if you're afraid of being stung, you're going to try to suit up as much as you can, but the sooner you get over that, the happier you're going to be, okay? I almost always, if I'm just feeding like this, at most I'll put a veil on. I never wear a bee suit unless it's in the spring and it's very cold, or late in the season I got to get in and get down into the boxes and the bees are not flying. Like I said, I don't see any need for it. So get out there, feed your bees, okay? And then when you get towards the end of the month, you're going to want to build up the stores in them. And there again, feeding is not we go by the calendar, we give them so many gallons of syrup. Feeding is results based, okay? So when you get to the point where you have the top box on a 2-story colony like this completely full, and you've got 4 or 5 frames down below, the equivalent of 4 or 5 frames in the lower box completely full, then you've got enough stores for the winter. Until then, you got to keep feeding. And a good strong colony like this when you're stuffing them full of syrup for, you know, winter preparation in October, can easily drain a 2-gallon feeder in 2-3 days. In weather like this, if they're really hungry, they'll down it in a day. Okay, so get out there and feed your bees, so you don't have to be going on Facebook in February and say, oh, my bees are starving, what's the latest recipe for fondant, or how do I make sugar cakes, or whatever, my bees are starving. You should never have to do that. I understand that if your bees are starving, by all means, you know, in the wintertime, feed them something. Don't let them starve to death. But the best time to start your spring feeding is right now. Okay? So, good luck.